Good evening. Let's begin here. The City of Johannesburg and civic organizations might battle it out in court soon over the new prepaid electricity surcharge that kicked in from the 1st of July this year. This follows Johannesburg's decision to compel prepaid electricity consumers to pay a 200 Rand fixed service charge, which is a monthly 230 Rands, including VAT. The organization Undoing Tax Abuse has slammed the City of Johannesburg, saying residents were not adequately consulted. For more on this, we're now joined by OUTA Executive Manager for Local Government, Julius Kleynhans, and he joins us now via our video link. Julius, thank you so much for your time this evening. Of course, a number of residents living in the City of Johannesburg quite upset there by that amount of money that they'll have to be forking out starting from the 1st of July. One would say it seems as if, despite the many outcries from many residents in Gauteng, it seems as if the city is not budging.
No, it doesn't look like the city is in tune with its residents at all. I think if you just look at what people paid for prepaid electricity last month, if you take an example of 600 Rand of electricity that you bought, this month all of a sudden with this new surcharge means that you're getting basically half of that, and the electricity prices have gone up as well. So it's a double whammy on consumers, unfortunately, especially the most poor and vulnerable, and the city just doesn't look like they are interested in engaging with the public.
Would you say that the City of Johannesburg went out of its way to consult with its residents, considering how many are surprised by this amount of money they'll have to fork out?
Not at all. I think the public participation process was quite fundamentally flawed. Just a tick box exercise. Neither of their public presentations have included this. So I think they've obviously tried to push it through hidden in the budget process. There's about 240 or 250 pages of a document in IDP that people have to browse through. But regardless, I think there's quite an uproar now, and people are waking up. Unfortunately, they're feeling the brunt now when it's too late already. But I think what is quite irrational by the city is to apply such draconian prepaid surcharges in winter when it's cold, when people need electricity, and that along with other price hikes within the city, that's already put a lot of burden on its ratepayers as well as consumers. We've seen year after year prices increase, yet we are to see that the services increase as well, and I see that the city is hiding or trying to justify these increases because the city power needs money to fix itself. But these tariffs should contain the bulk purchases from Eskom, the operational costs such as maintenance on the infrastructure, development of infrastructure, as well as paying salaries and things like that. So I think if the mayor wants to justify anything, maybe he must take his new blue light budget and spend it on city power.
And of course, you are pointing out, when it comes to residents who are already dealing with a lot of commitments, especially the rising costs during the winter period. What does this overall mean, especially seeing this price hike during the winter period?
I think it's significant, and the consequences I don't think the city has investigated at all. I think there's a large lack of research on the impact on consumers, and I think with the rise of living costs and things, the social pressures now, when you get this nasty surprise when you try and buy electricity, is quite significant. And I think we might even see civil unrest. We might see more illegal connections taking place, and those are the consequences. I think people are put in a very difficult and desperate situation by a decision through the city that's completely irrational. I think if the city was more in tune with the people on grassroots level, we wouldn't have seen this take place. And just to talk about the indigent register, with Stats SA, the city has said that they've got 30,000 households that get subsidized on the prepaid electricity. but we've seen other figures of about 600,000 households within the city of Johannesburg that are really struggling and that are not financially positioned to see these hikes. So we hope that the city comes to terms and scraps this levy quite soon.
What other options can actually be explored when it comes to the maintenance for City Power? Because, I mean, this is what we are told. It's for maintenance for City Power. When it comes to the research, can, something else be done to ensure that maintenance does take place, but not at this charge that residents are now being, basically forced to pay?
Look, sadly, this has not happened overnight. This is just purely bad business administration and municipal administration in general, because infrastructure had to be maintained. That's what's happened if you don't budget properly and adequately. I think Treasury says that the cost or the asset value of the city and its electricity infrastructure needs to budget about 8% every year to maintain it. Now, currently we're seeing losses of about 20% in the grid. So that's electricity that just gets lost because it hasn't been maintained. The problem we're sitting with is because municipalities fail to manage itself properly, they pass their inadequacies and failures onto the consumer year after year. And I think this is where we need to draw a line in the sand and say no more. So the city needs to cut its cost, and it needs to become more efficient and more cost-effective in supplying the service and start maintaining it properly. And hopefully we can start seeing electricity prices reducing in the near future and not just being cast on consumers. That is not how customer service should be taking place.
And, when it comes to, the various action that residents are taking, a number of them are signing, indeed, that petition that we've seen during the rounds on social media. And as OUTA, are you planning on taking any legal action, of course, to try and address this issue where a number of residents are cash-strapped?
Well, I think we encourage this civil activism, for as long as it's responsible. I think a petition is a very good legal form to get your voice heard, especially as a collective. And this is really good to see that communities are taking hands and supporting this. I think there will also be a protest action that's being planned and taking place soon. And hopefully these petitions can be handed over to the city and the city can come to its senses. But we are exploring other avenues, and worst case scenario, we might even go to the courts, on two specific matters. If this prepaid surcharge was not part of the cost of supply that NERSA has actually approved, and that's the independent regulator. I think, it baffles my mind that this has gone through, but regardless, or an irrational decision that's been made by the city that's got significant consequences on the consumers. So I think there are a couple of options. Obviously, that's the last resort, but we will make sure that we explore them and exhaust all avenues until we can bring relief to people.
And what is your advice to residents at the moment, of course, who are faced with paying this 200 Rand, of course, to the City of Johannesburg?
I think it's very important to become active and support this kind of movement that's taking place at the moment, but remain responsible. And hopefully the political pressure will be sufficient to bring relief to people. I think the city needs to go back to the drawing board and see how it can allocate the funds from other areas to ensure that they can turn City Power around. But they cannot penalize good law-abiding citizens for their mistakes, and that needs to stop.
All right, Julius, thank you so much for your time this evening. That is Julius Kleynhans. He is the Executive Manager for Local Government at OUTA.